It's been over 8 years now since my granddaughter and I worked on her first model train layout scenery, back when she was about 10 years old. She doesn't mess around with it so much anymore, but after some additional locomotives appeared, she could easily keep 3 trains running around the loop at the same time. Before that, there was only 1 locomotive, but it was a good one. Sold by the Atlas Company, with the mechanism made by Kato of Japan in the 1980s. It would glide as smooth as satin over those unpowered turnout frogs. I had rigged the layout's operating system in the design phase, such that there would be 2 cars for each of the 5 customer spur tracks. 1 set of the 5 were staged in the yard, and the other at each of their spots around the layout. The train would change out the cars on its way up the line and in the town, then return to the yard with a new consist. With the caboose parked and the cars put into the yard tracks, the locomotive got spun on the turntable to its service track to await the next run. Here's a sketch that illustrates that operating plan, with the 5 customer spur tracks numbered in the order of the train's progress up the line. The train departed the yard to the left, taking the longer route up to the top on the black line. After it got there, the new train continued back down on the blue line, taking the crossover near the passenger station to retrace the route back to the yard. The red lines were for switching leads and letting the train run around the circle when you wanted it to. Here's the track plan flattened out and unfolded, showing the yard on the left and the town on the right, clarifying the obvious choice of direction out of the yard to use as the main line. Ideally, the cars were arranged in some kind of an order to make for the easiest switching maneuvers at each stop. This boxcar for the freight depot was on our first layout described in a previous video. Our son bought its counterpart green one for my wife to graffiti. She hasn't gotten around to it yet. For switching at the sawmill, we had this pulpwood car to use for logs, and the flat car for lumber from those very beginning days. My granddaughter contributed this refrigerated car to the layout because she loves chocolate. I hadn't even yet revealed to her that I'd already planned for the big building to be a chocolate factory. I had 5 ore cars I could split into 2 sets because they were short, and the mine spur could hold up to 3 of them. There was only 1 covered hopper from the first layout, so I bought a second one. Someday I'll mold that missing hatch cover from one of its mates. This is not the original caboose, but I thought the engine should have one that matched it. So after about 35 years or so, it finally did. The rock face in the foreground was made by our granddaughter and was one of the first pieces of scenery to go on. It was derived from one of her school art projects, imitating old leather by soaking brown paper bag material in a homemade water-based solution, then wrinkling it up to create texture. Her dad has suggested I might use it on the layout as an alternative to plaster to minimize weight for easier transport. I went with the idea and made the remainder myself, but lazily skipped the soaking process, which resulted in not as fine of detail in comparison. Arriving at the edge of an intermediate town now, where the railroad serves the grain elevator and ore mine, along with the passenger station. Magnets in the track enable hands-free uncoupling, but it requires some extra movements. A real train could just drop uncoupled cars on the main line beside the elevator, which I tried, but it's too close to the 4% grade and they roll down the hill. So they have to go over to the siding. Also, real train cars activate the brakes automatically when uncoupled. A caution to bear in mind regarding switching near steep grades for anyone out there designing their own layout. Moving the train over the main line now to continue on our way. With number 1 of the 5 industries switched out, we'll pass by the mine now and get it on the way back down for easier backing in movements. We could do the mine now with the runarounds on the siding, and would if the mine needed the empties immediately. In that case, though, we'd also be hauling heavy or loaded cars instead of light empty ones until we got back, using more fuel. But of course the customer would always come first. Our train labors up the 4% grade now through the cut. Probably the biggest obstacle to realism faced by model railroaders is that of scale length of trackage. 1 scale mile of HO track is 87 real feet long. One thing working in their favor is that most interesting places to model are usually congested areas of concentrated activity that demand lower speeds. Starting and slowing, sharp curves, populated areas, track and traffic conditions. I've seen a huge steel truss bridge that posted a 10-mile-an-hour speed limit. All these lower speeds help ease the pain of the short main lines by making the trip last longer. We ease into town, past the number 3 customer spur, again facing the wrong direction for switching it, as there is no runaround siding there. We slow down a little more for the grade crossings and for the rickety old track. We can't switch this freight depot spur on the way back because we're not coming back this way, since we're returning by way of the loop instead. It will have to be dealt with some other way. The red flowers recall the fuzzy seed stalks of sumac trees along the tracks in the eastern parts of the country, with their fragrance mingling with the smell of creosote radiating up from the railroad ties in those hot, humid summers. They speak to me of home. Arriving now at our final destination to switch Industries 4 and 5, as well as take care of that freight depot back at number 3. First, we'll change out the refrigerator cars at the chocolate factory, using a handle of shorter cars to negotiate the small radius curve that's too tight for the big locomotive, a practice used by real railroads in cramped industrial districts. Also, the model engines won't couple to a car at this loading dock either. Squeezing this runaround siding into such a small layout was pushing it a bit. Luckily, I had the curved turnout that's at the far end of this shot. That brand doesn't exist anymore, and it might be hard to find one with an 18-inch inside radius and a 22-inch outside radius. Using the full 8-foot sheet of plywood instead of only the 7 probably would have helped. Now that the chocolate factory has been handled and there's a runaround siding, we can get onto the other end of that boxcar and head back over to the freight depot with it. First, we'll need to clear the line and tuck that string of cars out of the way somewhere. Fortunately, the street spur is long enough. And so we head back to the depot. Well, that didn't take long. Nothing but the sawmill left now, Careful planning is required here, as the big engine won't uncouple or couple easily near curves, and it must use a handle again for the sawmill job. Ouch, that's going to leave a mark. Those two cars are on that track because the other one can only take one car and clear the switches, due in part to the magnet location. Maybe someday they'll invent a track with infinitely variable magnet location control. Our new train is assembled now, and because there's no turntable or Y for turning the engine and the directional caboose, we're reversing direction by way of the loop. On a large layout, the unrealistic loop might be hidden, but here that would hide half of everything. Running right hand on the double track, we're back at the passenger station again to finally switch out the ore mine. In real life, it's not likely that every car gets switched out on the same day. Since we know there are only two alternatives as to where the cars go, either the yard or their respective spur tracks, I suppose some kind of random rotating time schedule could be worked out to break up when each car or cars get switched over, thereby preventing any robotic repetition that after a while might lead to boredom. This I never did, for reasons we'll discover later on in future videos. Anyway, one operating session of this system, which is much longer than this heavily edited video, keeps you busy long enough to hold the monotony monster at bay for quite a while. Hopping onto that crossover now for the return trip. Down the final stretch of main line now, into the yard again with the new consist. including that yellow wooden reefer, the last on our list of cars from the original layout. These things were on their last legs by the time the 1960s rolled around. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's brief escape back in time to those early days of operating the layout. I know I have. Anyway, we'll see what happens next time. Until then, I'll just say adios.